the Arabs, or the war in 1956 or in 67 or in 73, or the Intifada. The Arabs did. The Arabs hate Israel with a kahana or without a kahana. The Arabs believe that it is their country with a kahana or without a kahana. When you speak about peace, where in the world were you people in 1948 when Israel accepted the UN plan for partition? How come we weren't hearing peace then? And I recall the 3 weeks that preceded the 1967 war. And I watched on television in Arab capitals, the Arabs marching, shouting, calling for Israel into the sea. Where was peace then? Look, this isn't a game. You think that you can start 4 wars with us, lose the 4 wars, and then come back and say, let's have peace? Give us land? I'm all for land for peace. I'll have the land and you'll have the peace, and it'll teach you a lesson. Don't start wars again. Expelling people from their homes, if the Arabs would have won, and if the Arabs win just one war, you will see an extermination of Jews, quite similar to the kinds of things that we see almost daily in Lebanon. You want to talk about coexistence between Jews and Arabs? I'm waiting to see how Arabs and Arabs live together in Beirut. Sunnis and Shiites and Christians and Druze and Amal, Hezbollah. Everyone is mastering everybody else. And you talk to me about peace. In Judaism, we speak about peace, but we're not fools. We're not a pacific faith. We're people that want peace, but we're not about to have peace at the expense of Jewish survival.
Zula, Montana, go ahead.
Good afternoon. The rabbi, being born in Brooklyn, certainly knows the greatest example of nonviolence, or one of the greatest examples of nonviolence in this century was Jackie Robinson's fight to gain recognition in the National League. And I'm just trying to figure out how a man is intellectually superior to most others can reconcile his belief in violence with the nonviolence that the Old Testament and the Talmud teaches. I just find this totally incomprehensible. Thank you.
I do too. Incomprehensible that someone can get up and talk about the nonviolence of the Bible and the Talmud. Clearly you've never seen the Bible or the Talmud, or else you've been looking at a different version. Of course we hate violence. And of course violence is not a happy thing. But violence is sometimes a necessary thing. And if the Talmud says, if one comes to slay you, slay him first, that's not exactly out of Gandhi or the Quakers. I don't even have to begin to recount the numbers of wars that Jews had to survive. I want all the nations to beat their swords into plowshares, that's for sure. But when my enemy has a sword, I don't want a plowshare. What kind of comparison between Jackie Robinson, who was fighting not against people who wanted to kill him, exterminate him, he was fighting for a basic right, a civil right. And by the way, the basic civil rights that blacks got in this country would not have been gained without a great deal of real struggle, a real struggle. So, and even that was not against people who wanted to wipe them out. Even Bull Connor in Alabama was not talking about just killing blacks. It was a question of rights. I'm facing an enemy in Israel who wants to liquidate my state. What do you want me to do? To meet people who started 4 wars with me with flowers? That's not the Bible. It's not the Talmud, and more than that, it isn't even normal.
In 1968, our guest tonight founded the Jewish Defense League. He remained its international chairman until 1985. What's the Jewish Defense League do today?
I think it's not doing much, and it's unfortunate because I think that there has been a real rise in anti-Jewish feeling. It's not easy for a group such as JDL to find leadership. In short, any group which uses violence as one of its methods has got to make sure that it has the kind of leadership that can stop it from turning into a gang. Because violence, while it may be necessary at certain times, is terribly wrong at other times. And one has to have the intellectual stature to realize when yes and when not. And it is not easy. It's not easy finding leadership, and the lack of leadership led pretty much to the effective demise of JDL.
Bob's Fair, New York. You're next. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. The leaders of Israel in the past have come from Poland, Russia, Brooklyn, and basically they're not biblical Jews. They originated back with the Khazars around the Black Sea area of Russia. But as a result, they don't have any religious claim to that area any more than anybody else. There are Jews in Israel today that have Arab background, but they merely practice the Judaism as a religion and not biologically or ethnically Jews. And the second point, of course, is that the rabbi here is endorsing the exact policies that Hitler prescribed for the Jews of Germany, and that was to have them deported out of the country.
Thank you, New York. Rabbi?
Look, if you think that I am going to argue with you about whether I'm a Jew, the descendant of Abraham, you've got the wrong Jew. We're Jewish. We are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the chosen people of the Bible. If you like it, fine. If not, fine. Eat your heart out. We're in the country. 58% of the Jews of Israel are Sephardic Jews, Jews who come from Arab countries. The comparison to Hitler is obscene, though not a surprising thing coming from an anti-Semite. Hitler, of course, that's exactly what Hitler did. He just took the Jews and moved them out of the country. He didn't gas them. He didn't burn them. There was no Holocaust. And of course, you're the kind of a person who would say, you're right, there was none. I don't want to kill Arabs. I wish them well elsewhere, in their own countries, 22 of them. I simply just want them to leave me alone in my one country. And I have no interest in debating you whether I'm right, wrong. For 1900 years, we had no state, and we lived under people such as you and enjoyed such wonderful benefits as pogroms and crusades and eventually Auschwitz. And thank you for everything, but we have finally decided to have our own country, in which we will decide what's best for us, just as you decide what's best for you.
Buffalo, New York. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that I felt that the comparison between the rabbi and Hitler was ill-founded.
I'm sorry, caller. I'm going to have to ask you to start over. We were having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, can you now?
Yes, I can. Thank you
All right,
very much.
I was going to suggest that I agree with the rabbi on the fact that the comparison between himself and Hitler was ill-founded. I would say a better comparison would be with Khomeini. I think he represents the same kind of fanaticism that drives people apart. If I were a Jew, and I would be proud to be a Jew, they have a marvelous culture, and I herald that culture, but I would be embarrassed to be a part of a culture when a man continues, a man who's grown out of bitterness and ugliness, who oversimplifies every historical event. Whether Arab or Jew, this is wrong, and it doesn't serve the intellectual world or the spiritual world. Rabbi Kahane is a man without a spirit who continues to repeat and repeat with his very sad eyes. And I think by doing this, he casts a shadow upon a beautiful people and a beautiful religion.
Thank you, Buffalo. We'll take it from
I'm
there.
embarrassed tonight.
Thank you very much.
One of the reasons why there is no Jewish spirit left, sir, in Eastern Europe is that because there are no bodies left. This Jewish spirit that you praise, and I'm deeply moved by your praise. I wouldn't know what I would do if I didn't have it. This Jewish spirit was wiped out in Eastern Europe because we Jews had no state of our own, and so they massacred 6 million bodies. What I'm trying to do is guarantee that that will never happen again. It's pretty easy sitting in your city and talk